to declare any personal or prejudicial interests in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate and any vote. If a personal or personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have two apologies. Councillor Martin Holland and Councillor Errol Williams. Are there any other apologies, please?
Yes, Councillor Gwyneth.
Thank you very much. Any others?
Is having trouble with his internet. He's got to join me here.
Okay, right. Thanks very much for that.
Councillor Murphy Parry.
Yeah, thank you. Any others? Okay, thanks very much for that. Agenda item 3, urgent matters. There aren't any urgent matters, but we do have a question and a petition. The question is from Councillor Paul Penlington. So if Paul, you want to put your question forward, and then I will ask Councillor Ann Davis to discuss her petition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The question is, we were asked to come up with proposals to submit to the Westminster Government-led Levelling Up Fund on the 25th of June, the deadline being Friday, July the 2nd. As the deadline has now passed, can you tell us how many proposals have been received from members?
Paul, can you put your camera off? You're broken up. Can't hear you. Thanks.
You can't hear me?
No, we couldn't.
I'll turn my picture off. I'll try again.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Okay, we'll start again. We were asked to come up with proposals to submit to the Westminster Government. I'm getting feedback now. What's going on? I'll try again. We were asked to come up with proposals to submit to the Westminster Government-led Levelling Up Fund on the 25th of June, the deadline being Friday, July the 2nd. As the deadline has now passed, can you tell us how many proposals have been received from members, who submitted them, the details of each proposal, and what will the process now be for considering which proposals will be developed for submission to the local fund allocation?
Thank you, Paul. I think Councillor Hugh Evans, you're going to respond to that question.
An email was sent to the member area groups that fell under the MP constituencies of the Vale of Clwyd and Clwyd West.
Can't hear him properly, Chair.
No.
We can't hear you properly.
Okay. Is that better now? Can you hear me now?
No.
No.
Yeah, we can hear you here very clearly here.
I can hear clearly.
Do you want to try again here, please?
Okay. An email was sent to the member area groups that fell under the MP constituencies of the Vale of Clwyd and Clwyd West. Is that clear? Yeah, everybody hear me?
Hugh, it's just really, really quiet. We can't hear you.
I don't know what to do. I'll shout even higher then.
They haven't got their headsets, that's the problem.
I'm not sure what to do. I don't know.
That's better.
Okay.
That was better then.
I've not moved or anything, Jeanette. Okay.
Try shouting.
These were the Elweir Hill, Prestatyn and Denby and Ruthin Mag. Members were asked to complete a form setting out some discussed with the MP for that constituency. That could be potentially potentially be considered for inclusion in the levelling up. We've received a response from 5 members suggesting a variety of projects, including redevelopment of town centre and rural community buildings. The project ideas will be discussed with the MP. There will be an opportunity to discuss the member project ideas as well as suggestions from the MPs in more detail in future meetings, which will be held in July. Any future bids, including all the projects, require the support of the MP. Did you hear that, Paul?
Roughly. I've got a rough idea what you're talking about, to be honest, because you're sort of dipping in and out.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with what they heard? Yeah.
Would it be better, Chair, that
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Right. Can I ask a supplementary question now?
Yes, you can, Paul.
I'm not sure I'll get the answer, but I'll try. Okay. The promised £20 million must be allocated to projects that can be delivered by March 2024, coincidentally just before the next general election. And the continued longevity of this funding is unknown as it hasn't been set out yet, making properly thought out local authority planning for it very difficult. The timescale for bids is shockingly tight, and any funding bids put forward will eventually be approved or not by the local MP, not county councillors. So, as there's no knowing what the future will bring, and democracy has been subsumed by Westminster, DC services and local members are now being forced to scramble over short-term localised funding decisions for their own areas. Will this Levelling Up Fund support the future corporate plan now under discussion and the wider North Wales growth deal, or is it just a Tory vanity project to boost James Davis's chances in a marginal seat at the next general election?
Do you want me to try and answer that, Paul?
Yes, please.
Thanks, Paul, for that. The 20 million is per constituency. So the Vale of Clwyd is at the constituency of 1 MP. The Clwyd West is between Conway and Denbighshire. This is a new way of working for us in Denbighshire. I'll try and answer without getting into the politics of it, Paul. So, and this is quite a challenge, meeting the deadline that we have been required to do. These deadlines are very, very tight, as you highlighted there. And the experience that we had with themselves proved to be a challenge for us to get that bid in by June. That said, whether we agree with it or not, there is a potential for investment in our authority here. And the only way that we can use the Levelling Up Fund is by embracing the opportunity, working with the 2 MPs involved, and trying to come up with projects that our communities. So that's why I think it's important that we've created an engagement process with those 2 MPs and the members to come up with projects that accommodate their aspiration, but also, importantly, accommodate our aspiration in the locality as well. So the key.
So you've gone all together. You can't hear anything now.
Oh, I'm in a roll here now. I'm in the office. This shouldn't happen like this.
Hey, I can hear you. Okay.
We can hear you here in the building.
Not everybody's on mute, Chair.
Yeah, get everyone on mute.
Shall I try again?
Yes, please, Hugh, if you could.
Yeah. I'll try and start from the beginning. This is a new way of working for us in Denbighshire, and we have to embrace, if there's funding opportunities direct our communities, we have to align to where that funding comes from in order that our communities do not lose out. The key part of my response to your supplementary, Paul, is the fact that we will create a process where the MPs engage with councillors in developing projects which appease the MP, but also ourselves. That's really important. And both have agreed to come to the MAGs to discuss.
Can't hear a word you're saying, Hugh. Sorry. And such an important question and such an important answer. I want to hear what you're saying, please.
Well, I'm sorry. How come some people can hear and some can't? So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here.
I think if you switch to translate,
Yeah, switch the translation off and you can hear.
yeah, you hear it okay then, I think.
Chair, it's Graham here.
Yeah, okay, Graham.
Yeah, I'm obviously working at home remotely. I'm having the same difficulty as a number of the other members in that I can hardly hear Hugh at all. In his last effort to be heard, I turned the translation off, and he came across loud and clear. So I'm assuming it's something to do with the translation button for those working remotely outside of County Hall. So it might be an idea to turn everyone. It's a bit of a pain, but it might be to turn the translation button off so you can hear Hugh and then take it from there. That's just a constructive comment, hopefully, from someone who's working remotely like a number of the other councillors. If you turn the translator off, it does seem to be much better.
I've
Thank you.
just done the same. Graham.
Okay, thanks, Graham.
Can I just assure members that we've checked all the translation settings here whilst people have been telling us they can't hear. There's nothing out of the ordinary in terms of the settings here, so it seems to be an issue at the receiving end. So happy for members to switch their translation on and off as required, but there's nothing we can do here because it's all set up as per normal and it's working fine here.
Do you want to come and respond to the supplementary question again and see what happens, Hugh, please?
Yes, I'll try to remember what I said, Chair. Thank you, Paul, for that question. This is a new way of working for us in Denbighshire, and officers are building a relationship with civil servants as we speak. I do accept that the deadlines are tight, and we did learn a lot from the Clwyd South experience of getting that ready by the middle of June. That said, there is an opportunity here for investing in our communities. And the key point in terms of your question is, how do we engage with MPs?
Again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but that wasn't the key point.
You know, are there politicians going to be making challenge out of this one?
The key point was, will it affect the future tariff plan and Northwest Growth Deal?
Paul, can we let Hugh finish, please, and then we'll...
Can I just explain the procedure, please, for members? The Constitution is very clear. A member gets to ask a question, a response is given, a member gets to ask a supplementary question and a response is given. There's no debate under the Constitution in terms of a question. So I think we've had the question. I think we need to get the response and then you can move to the next item, Chair.
Okay, so that's very clear, Paul. So Hugh, if you want to finish your response, and then that will be the end of the discussion.
For me is that we engage with the MPs to make sure that investment works for the communities, that we understand where the MPs are coming from and they understand where we as councillors are coming from. So the key point for that is that discussion takes place in the MAG, which will be happening in July now. So hopefully they will be the key meetings where we can have an agreement and move some of these projects forward. The potential for improving our communities is substantial, this levelling up fund. It's not an ideal way of working, I accept that, but this is the starting point for the shared prosperity fund, which will come down line in a few years yet. So it's important that we as an authority not only embrace it, but also give confidence to funders that we can deliver. And that was the key points that came out in the Clwyd South, is that the project has to be deliverable. Are they aligned to the existing plan? Not necessarily, but we will discuss the projects in detail. Could they be aligned to the corporate plan of the council? Yes, of course they could. And we will be better placed to test that out in the next corporate plan, or the members will be better placed with the corporate plan. But where I'm coming from, it's an opportunity of investment that we should seize and make it happen for Denbighshire. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Hugh. We'll now go on to the second part of this, which is the petition from Councillor Ann Davis. So if you'd like to do a small overview of what it's about, that would be very good. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to present this petition against the planting of wildflowers in residential areas, feet from their homes. Whilst they support biodiversity and understand Denbighshire County Council have a duty to deliver this plan, and the Denbighshire County Council Bee Friendly certificate clearly states involve the community. They are disappointed that they were not consulted with. They feel they have lost their green space, somewhere for the children to play, their security and highway issues, and they are calling for the grass to be cut. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, and I'll call Gary now to.
Just to explain to members that in ordinary circumstances, a member would present a petition to the chair at the meeting. I did discuss with Councillor Davis that she'd like to present the petition today, so we've done it remotely. What happens with the petition is that it will then get sent in to us. It will go onto our register of petitions, and we'll send it to the relevant service in order that they can respond within 14 days.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anne, for that. Okay, we'll go on to agenda item number 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the Tuesday, the 18th of May.
Mr. Chairman, can I come in, please? Mr. Chairman, can I come in, please?
Sorry, you want to add something, Mary?
If I may, I had put my hand up, I had raised my hand because I couldn't find the written question. We usually receive the written question with the papers and also the minutes. Where's the copy of the minutes for the 18th of May? Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Cadero, may I ask a question?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll answer that question. We don't usually provide the question in writing with the papers because the time scale for submitting a question is just 2 days in advance. So any member who wishes to raise a question in full council just has to give 2 days notice. The papers are published before that, and we never publish the question in written format. With regards to the minutes, I was going to apologise when we got to that item. We've had a technical problem with regards to the translation of the minutes this time. The minutes had been sent through the process, the electronic process, as far as we were concerned, to Conwy, but for some reason Conwy didn't receive the minutes, and we only found out about this problem a few days ago. So the minutes haven't been published in enough time for this meeting, and we apologise for that, but it was a technical issue. Thank you, Gary, Mr. Chairman. But how am I meant to look at the minutes if I haven't got them? I've only got one screen today. The blue one isn't working anymore, so I've only got one. So I'm using the screen to be in the meeting, so I can't look at these minutes at all. I can only apologise for that. I'm not sure about the problem with your second screen, but with regards to meeting, it's possible to minimise, to make the screen smaller so that you can read your papers on screen. if you click on the short line at the top on the right hand side, that will minimize the view. I can only apologize about the translation. It was a technical problem which we only just discovered.
Thank you, Gary. Right, we'll go on to agenda 4, which is the minutes of Tuesday, the 18th of May. First of all, accuracy. First page. Second page. I'm sorry, I've got no numbers on mine. So third page. Page 4. Page 5. The 6th page, 7, 8, 9 and 10, which finishes on agenda item 15, which is the County Council Forward Work Programme. Do we have a proposer and seconder for the minutes, please? Okay, thank you. Sorry, who's it?
I'll propose.
Okay, thank you. Seconder. Brian, thank you, Brian Blakey. Thank you very much. Are there any matters arising out of these minutes, please? So we've got agenda item 1, 2. Agenda item 3, which is the appointment of the chair. Agenda item 4, appointment of the vice chair. Agenda 5, urgent matters agreed by the chair. Agenda 6, which is minutes. Agenda 7, notice of motion. Agenda 8, pay policy statement 21-22. Agenda 9, annual review of political balance and appointment of scrutiny chairs. Agenda 10, annual report of the Council Scrutiny Committee 2021. Agenda 11, annual report of the Standards Committee. 12, appointment of lay members of the Standards Committee. 13, review of the role of Head of Service for Education and Children's Service. 14, Chief Executive Recruitment 2021, and the agenda 15, County Council Forward Work Programme. Any comments or further statement on those, please? No? Okay, so thank you very much for that. So we agreed they're accurate and all together. So go on to agenda item 5, which is the annual performance review for 2020 and 2021. They're pages 7 to 136. And I'll ask Julian to come forward and just present the report, please. Thank you, Julian.
Can everybody hear me, given the problems people have? Yep, okay. Thank you very much, Chair. And I'll apologise at the start to any members who may well have previously attended governance and audit, performance scrutiny and cabinet, because it's already, this paper is already in part of the sausage machine, has already been through those various committees.
Sorry, Julian, I can't hear it. Can't hear a thing.
No, we can't.
I'll turn my camera off. Has that improved anything? Chair, it's Graham again. I had sorry. Yeah, I
No.
had the same problem when Julian first started speaking, Chair, in that
No, I can hear nothing.
No, I can't.
But I turned off the interpretation and then he came through loud and clear again. So I think it's something to do with that interpretation button. I don't think it's Julian's connection, as it were. Hopefully that's helpful, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So anybody who's having difficulty, if they follow the instructions that Graham has just laid out, and let's see if that's any better. So do you want to start again, Julian? And, Thank you very much.
As well, so hopefully between the two, people can hear me.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. So, as I say, apologies to those members who may have attended governance and audit, performance scrutiny and cabinet, because they will have heard a lot of what is going to be said already. This is a report.
Julian.
Yep.
I can hear nothing.
There's not a lot
Can
else
I just say,
I
Joe,
can do.
I've just turned off the translation and it comes out really clear now.
I can't.
Turned off the translation, but it works perfectly now. And
Yeah,
that's just clicking the globe on the. It's definitely on the language interpretation. If you switch that off, it's working perfectly now.
Who's having difficulty at the moment?
Me.
Okay.
Yes, and I am.
Right. Okay, let me just bring Gary in. Thanks.
Okay, apologies.
If you go into the interpretation and you go on to the Welsh, under English, go to the Welsh, and if you tick that, and I did it before, just like with Julian now, and I hear Julian is the leader by doing this. I did put a quick note on for everybody to try it. It's working for me, so maybe if others tried it, it might work for them. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Brian. Can I just bring Gary, just before you start, can I just bring Gary in? He wants to say something.
Yeah, apologies, members. There's clearly a problem at the receiving end for some people with the translation. And it appears from what Graham and Brian and others have suggested that if you take the translation off, then you'll be able to hear clearly. I can only say that we've checked here 2 or 3 times and there's nothing at this end that indicates a problem. All the settings are functioning perfectly well. So clearly that needs some investigation by the technical people of the system provider, but it's all working perfectly here, and we can't do anything to adjust at your end. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you've had an instruction if you can turn the interpretation off and see if that's any better. And we
June,
need to...
can you hear me?
No, I'm mute.
Okay, but one of the things we do need to do is to move on and continue with this report presentation. So if you can start, Julian, and see how we go.
Most of you, if not all of you, can hear me.
Yeah, thank you.
There's nothing else I can do my end, unfortunately. So I'll just keep plugging on and hope that most people can hear me and understand me. So as I say, this is a report which has previously been to governance and audit, performance scrutiny, and cabinet. So apologies if you've heard this some of this presentation before. The report itself is longer than it has been in previous years, and that's largely down to the fact that it now contains a lot of data which was previously contained within a number of separate reports, and they've now all been combined within the one document, essentially to meet our requirements under several pieces of new or updated legislation, including the new Local Government and Elections Act. The majority of the report still concentrates on our progress against the corporate plan in terms of the programme and the individual projects that are supporting that delivery. And for the first time, there is a chapter and a section within the report on the corporate health of the authority, and that is there to satisfy our requirements under the self-assessment element of the new Local Government Act. I'm not going to go through the report on a page-by-page basis, but the document itself
has a section on how everything is financed. Given circumstances, of course, it has a section relating to the impact of COVID. As I said, the main bulk of the report deals with the update on our delivery of the current corporate plan. And then there are sections relating to sustainable development, equalities, and the Welsh language. There's also a current iteration of both the project and risk registers attached to the document, and also any external regulators reports which have been in the last period. So as you can see, this document essentially has to be a very multifunctional one, and that is why it has grown in size. But hopefully that you will be able to take some good detail from that. We're doing this essentially as a three-hander. So in a little while, Iolo, who is here, will take you through the corporate health section. But first of all, I'd like to hand over to Nicola and Neil, who will take us through some of the highlights of the work on the corporate plan. So Nicola, if I can hand over to you at this point, please.
Fawr and bore da pawb. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll try to keep my camera on because I do prefer to be able for you to see me, but do let me know if the connection drops out and I'll switch my camera off. So as Councillor Thompson-Hill explained, I will give you an overview of our performance against our corporate priorities, and then I'll hand over to Yola, who will talk to you about a new section which is around corporate health. Okay, so first of all, first priority is housing, and our progress there is actually quite good, and so is our performance. That's the summary position that we're in at this time. However, there are some challenges, and they're mainly around our ability to meet deadlines due to COVID, and also some challenges in managing and meeting demand for some of our services. So first of all, the SART, which is the social housing waiting list. At the moment, that has over 2,000 people on it, and it is growing steadily every year. So it's a challenge for us. In order to deal with that challenge, a task and finish group has been established that consists of colleagues from housing sections and also the homelessness sections as well. That team is trying to understand the reasons for the increased people on the waiting list and also to find solutions. But the problem does remain, and the problem is complex. Just to give some further context, in the last 12 months, 219 people were housed from the SAR. So that's just around 10% of those who are on the waiting list. So to be able to meet the demand, it is a challenge for us. One route to managing that demand is by building more housing. And at the start of this corporate plan, we made a pledge to deliver 170 extra council homes by the end of this corporate plan, so by the end of March 2022. At the moment, we are forecast to have built 153 extra council homes by the end of March 2022, but we have identified over 170 opportunities for provision of council housing. So we are on track to have identified the opportunity to provide those extra 170 council homes, but our delivery is likely to be delayed by a few months, and that's largely due to COVID and the impact or the challenges and restrictions in terms of being able to build or renovate buildings on site. We have, however, already exceeded our target that we set ourselves for the provision of affordable homes. So far, we've delivered 394, and that is, up to the end of March 21. So that's a year before the end of our corporate plan, and that's against an original goal of 260. So our performance there is good. Dealing with homelessness remains a significant challenge for us. Demand is high, and the options that we've got at our disposals are limited. Again, this is being looked at through that task and finish group that I mentioned before. the pressure that we're finding is in trying to find suitable long-term accommodation for people. That's our ultimate goal, but it's a challenging one, and currently performance is at 30%. There is in the future, though, a rapid rehousing grant scheme which will help, but certainly dealing with homelessness remains a present challenge. In terms of the next 12 months, some of the priorities that we'll deliver under the housing goal are the extra care facilities in both Denbigh and Ruthin. Moving on to the connected communities priority, which is largely about infrastructure, both in terms of physical infrastructure such as our roads and also digital infrastructure. Our performance at the moment is a priority for improvement, and that's largely due to road condition and also broadband availability. Although our road conditions have improved slightly compared to previous years, comparatively, they do remain in the red zone for us in terms of performance. Projects to develop digital infrastructure across the county are developing, but I would like to just emphasise to members that Denbighshire is one in a field of players when it comes to this initiative. We support our communities to mobilise and try to raise enough funds to pay for the improvement to their digital infrastructure, and we also try to influence the process because there are other players involved such as BT Openreach and the Welsh Government. So we don't have full and direct control over the digital infrastructure within our county. However, we recognise that this was a priority within our corporate plan anyway, and the pandemic has only gone to show how important it is for us to have digital infrastructure that's really of good quality in the county. So it remains a project to which we're really committed. In the next 12 months, work to better enable communities to put on events will regain momentum following a COVID pause. I think members will already know about that work, actually. Colleagues have been to MAGS to talk about the grant scheme that's recently opened, and to which we're inviting communities to bid for funds to improve their infrastructure in their communities to make it easier for them to stage events. In terms of our resilient priority, sadly, we are reporting an increase in domestic abuse rates, and that's consistent with the concerns of police and domestic abuse support services across the UK. And that's largely being put down to the pandemic, and the way that being socially distanced and being in lockdown enables crime in private locations. Denbighshire does work to address domestic abuse through its usual work with the Community Safety Partnership and also with the regional team that's charged with tackling domestic abuse. And we've also got our own project internally that's really focused on preventing abuse by raising awareness of red flags and safety options, both for our staff and also for our service users. And that includes children as well who might be affected by witnessing domestic abuse. On a brighter note, recognising the invaluable support and contribution to well-being that our carers make, much work has been done in the past few years to understand the support the carers want, also how restrictions have affected them and how the challenges that they're facing can be overcome. This year we've actually closed the projects to integrate health and social care teams because it's been a success, and the services and the relationships that we've created to streamline services between health and social care are now embedded and mainstreamed. So overall, under the Resilient Communities priority, there have been lots of projects that have been completed this year, and our progress has been good. Moving on to the environment priority, there's been some significant developments this year. First of all, we have signed up and committed as a council to developing a climate and ecological strategy for the long term. We've also got doing a lot of work on a flood defence scheme in Rhyl, and our work to progress the energy efficiency of council homes is one area that has hit some barriers, largely due to COVID and our inability to upgrade and to renovate homes so that we can improve their energy efficiency. I would say as well that in relation to that, our target is that we hoped to enable 70% of council homes to have an improved energy efficiency rating. But recently, actually, the Welsh Government has set a target that's more ambitious. So we will be reviewing our work in relation to that. The timetable does remain challenging. And our final priority is around young people. The current and also the future outlook for young people does look challenging. Youth unemployment is running very high at the moment, largely as a consequence of the pandemic. And actually Denbighshire's rate is considerably higher than the Wales average. However, there is lots of activity underway in the county to address this. So if we think of, for example, Working Denbighshire, Work Start schemes, and also the Community Benefits Hub that's been established over the last year, which looks to secure work and training opportunities to prepare young people for jobs in the future. Education data hasn't been collected this year, and nor was it collected last year, but we will be monitoring this for telltale signs of COVID impacts. This will be a really important consideration for us in the future. Okay, so that's the overview that I wanted to give you of the corporate priorities. I will hand over to Yola to talk about corporate health, and then we'll be happy to take any questions. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Nicola. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. I will keep my camera off, however, because the approaching rain clouds here in the Dee Valley threaten my internet connectivity. So I wanted to talk to you about the corporate health section. Now, as Councillor Thompson-Hill mentioned in his introduction, it is a long report. It is a report that has to work incredibly hard to do all the things legally it has to do. It responds to various pieces of legislation, including the Equality Act, the Wellbeing for Future Generations Act, but now significantly the new Local Government and Elections Wales Act, which requires us to self-assess. Now, when we were looking into the necessities of how it must report on our performance, we were advised that it needs to look at, on the one hand, our performance objectives, which are exactly what Nicola was just taking us through, our corporate plans, our wellbeing objectives articulated there. So that's useful because we already reported on it in this report. But we also need to report on our governance areas, which is articulated in the statutory guidance that accompanies the legislation. Now, those governance areas, and there are 7 of them in all, cover corporate planning, financial planning, performance management, risk management, workforce planning, assets, and procurement. So in the report itself, in your document pack, page 96, apologies, sorry, page 93. Page 93, this is the start of the corporate health section. And you will see in the first part, some narrative around a set of measures that have been identified as supporting those 7 governance areas. So we've offered there some analysis of those measures. And then the next section on page 96 starts to look in detail at the governance areas. And these headings have had input from lead officers in those areas. So, for example, the financial planning section on page 98 of your pack, that's had input obviously from Steve Gadd. Performance management and risk management has been put forward by Nicola and myself as the team who lead on that in the authority. Workforce planning from HR, assets from the asset manager, etc. So the key thing is that it's about triangulating reports that have been written, internal reports and external audit reports. So we've attempted to draw those into the narrative here. We are also supposed to take into account stakeholder feedback. So we need to ask residents, partners, trade unions, city, town and community councils. We need to be garnering their opinion about what they think we are doing in terms of our performance. Now, I will confess that the report is weak on that aspect at the moment, but it is our first pilot, and over this next year, we will be running more stakeholder engagement. We'll be running a residence survey in the autumn, which we will brief members about when that is ready. And from that, we will have a full set of results to inform the next self-assessment report, which will be produced again in 2022 around this time. Now, the only other thing that I want to mention, on page 94 of your pack, there is a paragraph halfway down that relates to our net carbon zero target as a council. Now, it says in the final sentence that we were still waiting on CO2 data for our buildings before we were able to put forward a net carbon zero figure. I'm just going to paste, actually, take advantage of the technology. I'll paste into the chat our update, but I'll speak through it as well. We've now ascertained that we have reduced our net carbon total by 3,753 tonnes during 2020 to 2021, which is a 27% reduction. It's a fantastic start, but we must also be mindful of the exceptional circumstances through which that's been achieved. Obviously, COVID has seen fewer buildings being open and less travel. So it is likely that as things return to some normality, that during 2021 to 22, we will see our carbon output increase again. I also have to note that our baseline has changed since the strategy was seen by council. We've had confirmation now from Welsh Government about the scope for the inclusion of waste management within the figures, and Welsh Government have declared that it must now exclude curbside waste. So that's changed our baseline from, I think, the last was about 12,500 tonnes down to around 10,000 tonnes. So that is just the only verbal update I wanted to give to members. Just to finish off, page 121 of the packs, there is under the final heading, under the corporate health section, a list of actions, essentially, for how the council is going to improve in the year ahead. This is again a requirement from the legislation. We must identify key actions to address any challenges that we are facing. So we've attempted to articulate there some of the key things from the narrative that we provided in earlier pages for how we are going to improve as an authority in the year going ahead. And the next self-assessment will report our success in those actions. Otherwise, that's all from me. I'm happy to turn it back to members.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that very comprehensive report. I've got one hand up, which is Councillor Cheryl Williams at the moment. So if you want to come in with a question, Cheryl, please.
Well, really, it's a declaration because in another meeting I was asked to declare this as a personal one. The lady, Nicola, mentioned South. I am actually on the list with South as a tenant. So I wanted to put that as a personal interest and offer something to Nicola as well. When she mentioned jobs, there's apprenticeships going at the local post office, the local delivery office, which is a good start to a job for anybody who wants to do it that doesn't want to go to college. Okay, so there's much of a.
Okay, Let me bring Gary, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm that we'll record the declaration that Councillor Cheryl Williams has made, and I agree that it's a personal interest. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sure. Councillor Hugh Irvine, please.
Thank you. Thank you all for this very comprehensive report. A couple of observations to come out of Nicola's very comprehensive comments. And almost every time, I think, so I stand to be corrected, that she was reporting a disappointing response to a particular progress. She prefaced that with due to COVID-related issues or worse to that effect. So I'd like to know about how and why. And then later on in the report, she reported to us about very concerning levels of unemployment amongst young people in Denbighshire. And yet I read in the press, our hospitality industry is struggling for staff. So I ask the question again, how and why, and what contribution can Denbighshire make to try and get some connectivity, if you like, between the demand in certain sectors for work, for workers, and the fact that we don't seem able, or our policies don't seem able to steer them in that direction. So that was my observations and questions, Chairman.
Thank you, Hugh. Can somebody respond to that, please?
I'm happy to respond unless a member would like to come forward. Okay, I'll assume that I'll...
Sorry.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Councillor Irving, in relation to, I think, predominantly probably housing and my reference to COVID, due to social distancing restrictions and the directives to work from home, it has been difficult for people and contractors to get on site and to work with the same level of employees that they would not ordinarily have had on site. So that has had an impact on any work that we wanted to do, either in terms of building new housing or refurbishing them in terms of improving their energy efficiency. You know, people haven't been able to enter houses either. So there are a couple of examples where COVID has had an impact on our ability to deliver as quickly as we'd like to. In terms of the jobs, I would say the report that we presented to you today covers statistics up until the end of March 2021. So at that point, the hospitality wasn't open actually. So we will be bringing more reports to performance scrutiny at the end of Q2. So probably in around October this year, where you will see updated figures youth unemployment, because actually you're right to make that link. So a lot of the unemployment and the increase in unemployment was largely attributed to the fact that in Denbighshire there is a heavy reliance, particularly in the north of the county, on jobs in the leisure and the tourism industries, each of which had been closed due to COVID. So we may see changes in the stats when we come to review them in the autumn, but I would remind everybody that COVID is a live situation that we're still dealing with, and a very fast-moving and changing situation. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Very helpful. I just see a disconnect between, shall we say, our services or the health services or our local surgery services, where frankly we're struggling a bit. And the other side of things, people in the library, doctors, surgery, etc. But by the way, I'm going to Tesco with 400 million people and do my shopping whilst I'm on the way. And it's just a general observation. There's a disconnect here, and it was effort to solve it.
Thank you, Hugh. Okay, thanks. Councillor Butterfield, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nicola, for the report. It is comprehensive. It gives it answers a lot of questions, but it also leaves an awful lot of questions to be answered. But thank you for the report. My two questions really are about things perhaps in the very near future. And first one is about universal credit. And Nicola, I'd just like to know, are we doing anything to help with the cuts that are to come along in universal credit? Is there a report being prepared to monitor the child poverty that might well be brought about by the cuts? And is there a pathway open to families that will be finding the cuts becoming a problem? That's one of my questions. And my other question is about the youth employment. You say in there that we are assisting with youth employment. And I realise that we are doing a huge chunk of work in and around that, but who will be monitoring the intentions we have to help the young people to find jobs? How will we establish the usefulness of this project if there is no monitoring at the end of it to prove that it has or not been positive or not? Thank you, Nicola. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bunfield. Do you want to come back, Nicola, on that? Okay, thank you.
In terms of universal credit, I think we have seen an increase in the numbers of people that have actually been going on to universal credit over the last 12 months, which probably won't come as any great surprise. And as the furlough situation unwinds, we will have to see how that impacts upon us. We have been very proactive in terms of the work that we've actually been doing with our clients in relation to that, both in our work with Citizens of East Denbighshire, the DWP and other organisations. There have been a couple of reports that have gone to scrutiny detailing the work we've done both in preparation for universal credit implementation and during its rollout. As I say, it is a movable feast because of the fact that we know that once furlough unwinds, there will probably be further impacts relating from that. But to date, we've been able to cope with the levels of increase that we faced to date. I think that's probably all I can say at this point on that one. Nicola wants to take up the second question.
Before you leave, Julian, might I just ask that we know the problems that are here with us now, but I'm concerned about the child poverty and what we're doing about it in the very near future when the cuts come to the credit facility that is available to our families. And it's what we're doing at the end of the year to alleviate any child poverty that might be brought about by the cuts. Not how we've dealt. I think we've dealt with it admirably. I think we've done what we could, and I do believe that, as you say, it is a moving feast. But I do believe that we have to be proactive here and to sort of look at the stuff that's coming to us rather than what's been done to us in the past. And I think that we have to be very proactive. I'm just very concerned that we do have child poverty in Denbighshire, and these cuts might increase that poverty level to a higher level than we would be proud of. I think we should be dealing with that here and now. Thank you, Julian. I know it's a difficult situation, but I think we really should be monitoring it and making sure things are in place. Thank you.
You're right, Joan. The way to deal with this is the way we dealt with the implementation of universal credit all along was to be very proactive. We did get ahead of the game. We set up a multidisciplinary team, which we didn't deal with it just as if it was it's a benefits issue, so it's only for the Revs and Bens team to deal with. We had all sorts of teams, including our social care team that's been involved with that from day one and continues to be involved with it from day one. So it is, as you say, you are right. Activity is the way to do it. It's the way we have done it. It's the way we will continue to deal with it going forward. I don't want to.
Yeah, can I come in and really just support what Julian said? So I think it's a really important point that you're raising, Joan, and we're absolutely aware of and watching the horizon. But we're not waiting for that to happen. We are taking proactive action ahead of those changes being implemented and issues arising. So as Julian said, we've had a multidisciplinary internal group with partners looking at individual families where we feel that changes will have that negative impact. And we're working with the whole family, with the children, with the adults, looking at what opportunities there may be, particularly seeing employment as an opportunity to come out of poverty, but also maximising benefits where people are entitled to them. But I think, we can show that through COVID, we've mirrored that approach as well to our approach to free school meals and our approach to supporting vulnerable children and families during the pandemic. Before we actually went into the first lockdown, our services met and they went through each and every child that was known to either social care or to our schools, where our schools had concerns about them and their families and their ability to cope during lockdown. And we put individual packages in to wrap around each and every one of those children and families. So, I think we can demonstrate that's something we've done all the way through, both before the pandemic, but we'll continue to do in the future as well. We are very fortunate that our structure allows us to have that close working relationship internally and also with partners. But absolutely, it's something that we do not take lightly, and we'll continue to look at how we address. And I think our new corporate plan will be absolutely key in terms of prioritising issues with child poverty as we move forward in the future. Can I also pick up the other issue around how we monitor youth employment? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Working Denbighshire and our other employment schemes such as TRAP and TIMETABLE have incredibly detailed performance monitoring arrangements because they are grant funded schemes in the main. So as part of receiving that grant monies, we have to provide incredibly detailed reports around not just the numbers that have gone through, but the outcomes. And for us, it's been really important. And I think picking up from some of the lessons from the past, where we monitored how many people went on a first aid course or how many people went for an interview. We're now actually looking at how many people 6 months after having had the interview are in a job. And we're following that through. And, we're not just stopping at the point somebody enters employment. We're continuing to support people during employment to ensure that they sustain that employment. And if it doesn't work out, then we're picking them back up really, really quickly and looking at alternatives. So it is something we monitor very, very closely. The numbers say one thing, but actually the outcomes are far more important. Deal.
Absolutely. Could I ask then, Nicola, forgive me for asking this extra question, Chair, but where can we look at these figures, Nicola? Will be on our website. Whereabouts are the figures that we can look at as members? Thank you.
I suppose Working Denbighshire, as it's been going for a number of years now, has lots of quarterly performance reports that we could share with members. We can do that either in terms of a written report to you, or it's something you might want to call into scrutiny and have a look at in more detail. So happy to meet members' interests in how you would like that.
Thank you very much for that, Nicola. I think it would be good that we get, perhaps a written report before it goes to scrutiny, so that we have an idea of exactly what we're speaking about and how we as councillors can monitor what is in the report in our scrutiny meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Do you want to come in, Nicola Neal, with anything else, or can I go on to Councillor Graham Timms, who's patiently waiting in his car?
Yes, I'm happy to move on.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Timms, please.
I just wanted to come back to that point that Joe made about the figures on claiming benefits between 2024. It's doubled in Denbighshire, and it's not done that elsewhere in Wales. And I just want to know the actual reason behind that, because something's happening in Denbighshire that's not happening, and we need to get it right. We already knew that people were leaving when they were younger because there's no opportunities here. To see that happen is a real disaster, and I just want to really emphasise that something needs to be done about it. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, you want to come back in with that, and any of you, or is it something that you need to go away and think about and report back to us?
I think it's probably something that needs to be developed with with Emlyn's team in terms of the work that they're doing on employability and skills. I think it's probably something that does need to come back in a different format rather than today, where we're really reporting on historical data.
Yeah, that sounds okay. Yeah. Thank you, Julian. A provision presumably will be made in the future to bring a report back, either through a briefing or some other form, so we can have a look at that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Julian. Councillor Wynne, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
For members to put the interpretation back on, then I will proceed with my opening gambit with a question in the end. I am assuming now everybody can hear me. Diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Nicola and Iolo, for your very comprehensive and honest reports, which refer to the successes over the year and also the less successful elements. We must acknowledge as members the reality of COVID-19. It did place a number of challenges such as building and housing, and we have got to acknowledge those challenges. However, I think there was a procedure in place in the county that enables officers to monitor the progress over the year and also enables them to respond, try and overcome the challenges and also the possibility of not achieving the targets. I think Nicola has partly answered the question that I'm about to ask, but I invite the officers to make any further comments. Has it been possible to use this procedure over the past year? Nicola did refer to school meals, for example, and the need to respond to that. Have there been opportunities over the past year, as this has been monitored, say 3 or 4 months in, right, we've got to do something about this and put it in order so that the report at the end of the year is more positive rather than negative? Thank you.
You want to respond to that, officers, please?
Do you want me to come in?
Yeah, Nicola.
Yeah, Nicola, if you want to come in.
Yes, I think Emily, that's a really good question, because actually we haven't had, although we've had a pandemic for the year, the experience throughout the year has been variable. So I don't think we can actually compare one quarter with any other quarter throughout the last 12, 18 months. So I think what we have been able to do is, as a council and with our partners, we've probably been more flexible and agile than ever before. So in terms of our ability to take quick and decisive action if required has been probably made more possible during the last 12-18 months than ever before. And some of that has been because of changes to legislation and relaxation of different things that we've had to follow. So we have adapted, we have changed, we've learnt lessons. You know, we've started off down one track and realised that's not been quite right for Denbighshire. What I can assure you is Denbighshire has always taken decisions that have been what we believe are in the best interests of Denbighshire. And, you know, if that means doing something slightly different to what other parts of Wales are doing or other partners, then we've done that. And I think that's always held us in good stead. So I think we will monitor, we'll continue to look back, but it's going to be really hard because it's not apples and apples that we'll be comparing. But I think, you know, we can demonstrate and we can show that we've learnt, we've reflected, and we have adapted as needed throughout this last 18 months. Deal.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I will respond, and I'll put it in English to save people having to drop and change the translation at the moment. Yes, I appreciate that. As local members, and I'm sure, you know, the 46 other members would agree that we do have questions or inquiries from our residents, and as things are progressing and getting more and more back to normal, there is a tendency for us, for the recent being due to COVID-19, for it to be less of a defence statement than it was initially, for example. And it can be more of a challenge for us to try and justify what may be an apparent lack of action in various circumstances. And I must say, from my own experience with housing, 3 times since the beginning of the year, I've been in touch with housing, and they've addressed the 3 successfully as far as the 3 inquiries were concerned. So, you know, there are some very good points, but it's not always easy to use the COVID-19, although it is the reality. I accept it as a defence statement for these days.
Can I come back? I think you're absolutely right on this. I don't think it's a defence. I think, you know, it's been just the reality, though, of the situation. We have had to adapt. We've had to apply new rules and follow new guidance and new legislation. And that has meant, at times, changing how we've been able to operate. But actually, it's also given us freedoms to try things that perhaps pre-COVID we wouldn't have ever dreamed of trying. So, you know, I think there are some positives through what has been a really difficult situation. But I do think, you know, and using some of the rhetoric that's being said at the moment, we've got to learn to live with this now, and we've got to adapt to this new way of normal. But some of that will be not returning to things exactly as they were pre-pandemic. There will be some new ways of working across different services, just because we've had to adapt, we've had to move forward. But in doing so, some things have actually been for the better in terms of that customer interface and customer experience. And where services haven't necessarily had that opportunity to have that interface, and that, you know, it looks like, you know, indications are possibly that will start returning over the next weeks and months. So I think, as I say, you know, as we start to turn things back on, again, we'll reflect, we'll look at, we'll learn from, and take the opinions of our residents and customers on board. Diolch.
Okay, diolch.
Thank you. Graham Bowes, you looked as though you wanted to make some comments before I go on to the list of councillors waiting to speak.
Thank you, Chair. To what Nicola said, of course, we've got a recovery plan, you know, detailed recovery plan and a number of recovery themes. So that'll allow us to get back to business as usual in those kind of frontline service areas. There's always a bit of a lag in terms of the impact over the last 18 months until 16 months in terms of getting back to normal. But I think that's the plan. We've got a recovery plan and detailed plan, and as Nicola said, we're on that journey now, won't we? But getting back to kind of where we were pre-COVID, but learning the lessons and actually perhaps in some areas trying to improve some of the things that we deliver. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham. Can I bring in Councillor Bobby Feely, please?
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, some people have picked up on things that I had intended to say, but first of all, to thank Nicola and Yolo for pulling together this report for this year and showing that we have achieved well despite the difficulty of having to adapt the way we work, as Nicola's just said, during the pandemic, and it's been a difficult situation. But I would just really like to say how pleased I am with the progress in terms of community resilience, in terms of the integration of health and social care. We've made such good progress there. And obviously the climate and ecological strategy to achieve as much as we have in terms of net carbon reduction, 20%. I think we have really well. In terms of difficulties in recruiting, if there are people out there waiting or hoping to get jobs, as I can't remember who said earlier, the hospitality industry and indeed the social care industry, if I can call it that, have had a lot of difficulties in recruiting. So I hope some of those people out there will gird their loins and get really keen on trying to adapt to possibly new jobs or new ideas. The only thing I would like to flag up, and I don't know whether there's anybody there who's going to be able to answer it, is are we doing enough on our digital development? Are we, not just, I don't just mean on digital, virtual, I don't think I've been to a meeting yet where there hasn't been some problem or other in terms of virtual working. We never get through a meeting without a problem with something. So there's that, but there's also, NHS appointments at home, there's social care, there's all sorts of things that are going more and more online and digital, and I'm not convinced that we're doing enough on either connectivity or digital development. So I don't know whether there's anybody there who's able to answer that, but or whether indeed anybody else feels the same. But I am just slightly nervous that we still haven't got it as right as it could be. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Does any officer want to come back, or is it just a statement that we're continuing to look at and work on to improve our connectivity?
I think it is a valid point to raise, Chair. Some of the projects within the existing corporate plan, I have no doubt that something similar will no doubt revolve forward into the new corporate plan. Hang on. Somebody's sharing their screen here. Is improving the wider infrastructure for digital, because as you said, it's not just us. All sorts of countries now will want to be expanding their digital footprint, so to speak, and there is a limit on what we can actually deliver from the infrastructure that we have within the county. And that's largely something, unfortunately, that is outside of our control because we don't put in that infrastructure. So I think what we need to continue obviously doing is lobbying BT Openreach and whoever it is that's taking over things to make sure that we have the best possible capacity built in. Because a lot of the issues that we face in our meetings that you refer to, they're not a fault of the system. They're a fault of our individual lines and signals on our own properties. and that's why we need to resolve these. I don't know whether Graham, you wanted to come in to pick something up on that?
Again, just to echo what you said, Julian, we're working hard on that. There is a project board that we've got that has a number of officers on it that's looking into how we can improve the digital connectivity within our community. It's not necessarily us digging up the roads and putting the fibre connectivity in, of course. It's how we influence that in terms of our working with BT Openreach and with other funding regimes and being imaginative as we can. So there might come a time in the future where there's a report and update to members, possibly a council work, perhaps a members workshop, or via scrutiny, where probably we've got some updates for members on how we're doing and where we're up to with this. And we've got a board meeting coming up, so I'll take that back to the board meeting. I think it's this week, or is it next week? Because although it's a kind of every time you think you're getting close to something else comes along in this, but so there's never an ideal time to update members, but it probably is time to provide members with an update, because I think we all feel that frustration around, sorry, I've got to turn my camera off, or I can't quite hear you, my connectivity's dropping. And it's not a Denbighshire County Council issue in itself, but clearly we're a partner and a player in influencing Openreach to ensure that our communities are well connected. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham, and I appreciate everything that everybody is trying to do, but I'm very concerned because our COVID recovery does include quite a lot to do with connectivity and you know, the digital development, and if it's lagging behind, it's going to hold up our recovery. So I do think it is of major concern. Thank you very much for trying to answer anyway.
Thanks very much. I think it's, as already been said, it is an ongoing problem. I also, just an aside, I did hear comments some while ago, not from within here, but from one computer company, service provider, that there's such a great demand now from people working from home that has put a great strain on all their systems and so on, that they never ever envisaged several years ago prior to COVID. So it's obviously something that is very much relevant and ongoing. Right, I've got three other speakers. I've got Rachel Flynn, and then Christine Marston and Merrick Lloyd Davis, and then we'll close this discussion. Okay, so Rachel, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this question is really directed for Nicola, Graham and the leader, and it's about we talk about meeting housing needs for the people of Denbighshire, but we don't talk about the right houses in the right location. And I would just like to know what work's being done with to make sure we're building the right houses in the right location, but also built in an environmentally friendly way. It was identified in the corporate, when we were identifying issues for the corporate plan back in 2017, that we need to build more, you know, sustainable housing, as in solar powers should just be standard. I attended a climate summit meeting organised by the Vale of Clwyd, and one of the speakers under the Sustainable Development and Growth section said that it should just become the norm that houses are just built with solar panels and all these, you know, saving efficiencies, but also built a story higher. So in areas where there are, we allow developments in flood zones, flood areas, these houses are just built to withstand that if there was a flood event. So they're built a story higher. You know, these are things that are not not outside of our gift. And I would just like to know what we are doing about that, please.
Is there a response from any officer? Please.
I'm sure Graham will go and tidy up after I had a go at this. This is the remit of the LDB steering group, isn't it? And this is what they're about, looking at matching the housing needs to what the demands are. My concern with what your aspirations are, Rachel, and I would share that, is the increased costs of making houses ecologically sound, because the developers back at as well. The one thing that falls out of that agenda is that we can't afford to do it, affordable housing.
Leader, respond to that.
Yeah,
because again, in this ecological climate that we had this meeting, it was already, that answer was already addressed, and it was said that if it becomes the norm, the cost is then passed on, and the developer then starts to bring the costs down because it becomes the norm. It has to start somewhere. So unless we sort of start, the process won't happen.
No, I agree that it has to start. My concern is that the developer will relay that cost somewhere. That said, that doesn't mean we don't start the conversation and start the process for what we should have, what the house of the future should look like. We've already had an example, and I'll use my ward as an example, where they were telling us, the developers are telling us, it was not affordable to put X amount of affordable housing. It just didn't pay them, they wouldn't do it. And so we've already started that displacing affordable housing in developers. But I think you're right, we need to create that conversation now. And I expect that conversation to start at the and a position at a very early stage in terms of how the future should look like. Now, Graham will tell you what actually should happen.
Absolutely, Chair. The planning system for building of houses is a planning process in the UK, so your starting point is your development plan, obviously your LDP. So the LDP that exists, has allocated housing sites for where housing can be developed. So in terms of the right houses in the right location, that work's been done through the existing LDP. But of course, that LDP was developed some years ago, and as the leader said, we're now at that stage where we're developing the next LDP working group. So it's important that the LDP, our new LDP, allocates the appropriate sites in locations where we need housing and the right type of housing in terms of size and design. So that's kind of the right houses in the right location. It has to be done through the planned process through the LDP. The other issue then around making them as environmentally friendly as possible. Well, of course, where we build our own houses as council houses, which we are doing, we've heard a little bit about that in Nicola's summary. Of course, we will try and ensure that they are as carbon neutral as possible. That's what we'll do with our own council houses. But of course, the private developers are guided by what's in the building regulations. So actually, the building regulations is set by Welsh government and by UK government. So the standards of houses in terms of drainage works, etc., is mostly done through building regs. So if we in Denver try and put a higher standard onto those private sector houses than perhaps neighbouring authorities, and a higher standard than national standard in the building regs, the risk is we price ourselves out of the market and developers become ambitious. So there's a fine balancing between what we want to do locally by imposing greater demands on the private house builder and the balance of actually getting houses built. And the best way to achieve that standard, in my view, is through the building regulations, through national standards requiring things. I think that's where Welsh Government are working on. Now, we can do our bit, of course, locally, but ultimately, I think it is about a national standard. Otherwise, you've got different authorities having different standards, and that doesn't help the house builder. It doesn't help the climate change agenda, and actually, some authorities are in risk of pricing themselves out of the market because developers just won't go there. So there's a whole complicated about the free market there.
Could you just answer the question that what's the lifespan of a house? So Devonshire County Council, we purchased a house to keep in our housing stock. What's the lifetime of that house, please?
Well, I don't know. When we build our own council, what's the lifetime of that house? I don't know what standard we work to. To be absolutely honest, we can find that out. I mean, there'll be a whole set of that probably that question would be based on a whole number of different factors. I'm guessing, from an economic factor to climate, to quality of building, etc., etc. So I don't know what the exact standard is. We can find that out for you.
Thank you.
No, Chair, I can't answer the specific question on a residential property. We would normally say that a building has, which is why we work with the borrowing normally based upon a 25-year lifespan of a building. But obviously, buildings do last longer prudential borrowing point of view. And just to add to what Graham said, obviously on those properties that we do have an impact on ourselves, the ones that we're actually doing, as I'm sure you're aware, we're in the process of building some new properties to the passive house specification, which is on the current scale, as I understand it, the most energy efficient methodology that's currently available to us. And we will continue to do that where we're able to, but because it's always obviously more cost effective when you're doing something new than trying to retrofit existing stock which wasn't built with that purpose. You're quite right.
Thanks very much for that. I've got two people now to come on, two councillors, Christine Marston and Merrick Lloyd-Davis, and then we're going to bring this discussion on this very comprehensive report to an end. So, Christine, if you'd like to come forward, please. And
obviously, with the loss of Llanach Bridge, it has been very devastating for my community, in particular isolating Tremerchion. Progress appears very slow in creating an action plan, working with Welsh Government to ensure funding, plus liaising with CATHU and NRW. Can I ask officers, is this a priority, and when will sort of movement on this project, this scheme, sort of move forward? Thank you.
are there any takers on that one? Or is it something that you could respond to? Both sides?
Tony Ward and myself have been in discussions recently, lead members been involved, that's Councillor Brian Jones. It is a matter that's high on our list of priorities to try and have an agreed approach around what needs to be done. So, what is it that we want to structure do we want to replace? The first question is, do we need to replace? I'm sure I know your view on that, Christine, will be a clear yes, and we understand that. And then, what is it going to be replaced with? A bridge that looked like the old one? Is that possible? A different type of bridge, something with perhaps cycle routes on it, etc., as well as road access. So that would be a wider bridge than the one that was there. So with Tony, what we said we needed to do is perhaps actually go out and have a bit of a consultation exercise, fairly with the local community, with local residents who live nearby, with the local community councils, to get a kind of basis on what we think the consensus is, what the majority is in terms of a replacement, and I'm sure that's what it would be. And I think that's our in terms of Welsh Government to try and secure funding for that then, because we'll have demonstrated an engagement with local people, and we'll have a solid legs to go and ask for further funding. I mean, we have asked for funding initially, and we didn't get a lot of response from Welsh Government, so we feel we've got quite a slightly different tact. Get the local community behind us in terms of what it is that needs to be replaced. We think that will strengthen our hand for further funding opportunities through Welsh Government. And as we heard earlier on, of course, there are other funding streams coming on board via UK government. So it's up to us to have a clear plan to try and maximise that funding. So it's not something that's been forgotten about. It is something that we're dealing with, and we see it as something of a priority to get that consultation up and running and starting with the local community. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of frustration in the community that no action is being done, and there is a movement for those residents that they feel nothing is done by the community, and getting would be thing not our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Last speaker now is Merrick Lloyd-Davis. Please, Merrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're very kind. Can I thank, and first of all, can I second the Vice Chair with regards to the bridge in Llanach? Obviously, Trefnant is affected by this problem, which has occurred there. Local people are very concerned about when we can join Tremerchion once again, or Hiallt or the Waun. when we get the connection. Hopefully by the next meeting, we will have more of an answer. Thank you for raising that, Christine. Thank you very much for this detailed and comprehensive report. Can I also agree with the statements by Councillor Feely, and maybe Councillor Richard Maynon would like to say something about the technology that does not exist? It's central government that are dragging the feet on that. They have forced farmers to go on this for years, but the system isn't in place. If I can draw your attention to page 91 in the report, under the title Assets, I notice that Four Crosses Farm, Llanrafon, Llety Farm, Llandernog, and the Skipper Tin Celyn, Llanrafon have been sold. Could somebody come back to me, if they can't answer today, about how many farms were available to let in 1967, 96, 97, and how many farms have we got available for rent for young farmers and how many have been let? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Officers presumably will come back and inform Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis of that information.
Yes, by all means. In terms of the question on the agricultural estate, clearly I haven't got the detail in front of me as to what we had in 96 compared to today. Obviously, I can say it'll be less than we had then, but in terms of what the numbers are, I obviously can't clarify that. But I'm sure that somewhere somebody will be able to dig out some records going back to the beginning of Denbighshire as a baseline, and I will provide that information as soon as I can.
Thank you, Julian. Okay, so we'll bring this report to reporting to an end now. So, do you want to just repeat the recommendations, Julian, about that's 3.1, please?
Yep, sure. Recommendation 3.1 is it recommended that, subject to any agreed changes, and I don't think that there have been any, the council approve the annual performance review for 2020-21.
I'm happy to propose.
We have a seconder as well.
Or second,
yeah,
whichever.
second. Yeah. Sorry, I was proposing that. So yeah.
Second, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there anybody against? Forever hold your peace. Okay, so that we take it that everybody's in agreement. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so thank you. Thanks, officers, very much, all of you, for the hard work. It's a very comprehensive report. It's obviously ongoing and will continue to be ongoing. So thank you very much. We'll go on to agenda item number 6, which is the committee timetable for 2022. And Steve Price, I think he's somewhere in the wings, waiting very patiently, I hope. Steve, are you okay? Please be there, because poor old Gary here was wondering whether it would be passed to him at some point, if you weren't. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to apologise for the technical issues this morning, and also to those who are watching on the webcast. The English side of the webcast was affected by audio problems. It does seem, although we'll have to check on the webcast archive, it does seem that the Welsh webcasts are clear. So if you have a problem, certainly, and this is to the wider public following some of the debate, it looks like it would be possible to move over to our Welsh website and obviously hear the webcast in English when it's spoken in English. So hopefully that might help. Just moving to today's report, each year we bring a draft timetable to you. So this one is for 2022. The timetable is shown as Appendix 1. The main committee meetings are also shown in the calendar style monthly planner, which is in the appendix. A note at the top of the planner, the calendar planner, just shows which meetings aren't included in that, which just for reasons of space and the ability to see the main meetings. The full table of dates table note does have all the meetings that you have, and that's at the front of the appendix. Appendix 1 also has a kind of blow-by-blow explanation of how the draft timetable has been put together. I'd like to thank Kath Jones, our committee officer, who's actually done the hard work. The hard work is in the appendix, and that's Kath Jones's work with various other officers and members in putting that together. It's really to approve the draft programme in Appendix 1, but just take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Are there any questions from councillors? Do you want to come in?
Mr. Chairman, may I please? Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I think I've asked this, but if I may ask it again now amongst my fellow councillors, is it possible to have a link to all the meetings without having to request for each one asking for to be observers, or when we're members like today? If we make a request, is it possible for that particular councillor to have everything rather than having to request every time for each meeting? Thank you.
Yes, please, Steve.
English to stop people having to toggle between, if that's okay on this one occasion. Yes, we've been running meetings remotely. Obviously, we're having to do that. We've had to do that. Things will change as things become more hybrid and people have a choice, I'm guessing. We found in a couple of years ago when we were sending calendar invitations to all members for all meetings, we were getting a lot of messages back, confusion from some members about whether a meeting in their diary was one they had to attend, because there are a lot of different meetings, clearly. So we stopped doing that, and we've stopped doing it for this occasion. So we now send invitations to meetings that you actually ask us to attend if you're not a member of that particular meeting. But we can send those members who want all meeting invitations that they're entitled to attend. We can send you invitations. From your email, Councillor Davis, a few days ago, I've asked the committee team to add your email address to those invitations, so you should get an automatic email if that's okay. It was simply to avoid the confusion where members' calendars are full and it's difficult to tell which meetings a member was supposed to turn up, rather than being able to turn up if they wanted to.
Steve. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain-Jones, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. It's just to ask Stephen, I know I ask this every year, is there no possibility of the adoption panel being noted on the diary? I do ask all the time for the simple reason that the members know who's representing them on the adoption panel and whether there's any information that they may want to ask me. Because we do also, as adoption panel, have business meetings. If it hasn't been possible for 18 years, so I'm wondering whether or not that is a definite no-go. So I will ask the question again, but I do think it would be useful. Thank you, Steve.
Chair, if I can answer that one then. At the back of appendix, page 166, it does have the Conwy and Denbighshire Joint Adoption Panel, and the note I'm seeing on it is that the dates aren't yet set by the panel, Councillor Chamberlain-Jones. We interestingly do have dates for the fostering panel, and they are in the packet because they are known. I think it's that the panel set their own dates, and the Joint Adoption Panel hasn't given us those dates yet. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other comments. Thanks very much. Well, the recommendations are 3.1 that the council approves the committee timetable for 2022 as attached in an appendix. Do we have a yeah? Second.
Move.
Is anybody against the the timetable now. Okay, so we assume that because there isn't anybody against, it's unanimous vote. So thanks very much for that. And we go on to the final agenda item 7, which is the County Council Forward Work Programme, pages 155 to 158. And Gary's just going to quickly run through this one. Thank you.
Chair. It's just to notify members that obviously the next scheduled meeting of council is on the 7th of September, and you'll see in the forward work programme there are a couple of items there. I'm sure there will be items to be added. The council is also scheduled to have a special meeting on the 22nd of July to deal with the recruitment of a new chief executive. There are also workshops being arranged at the moment in terms of the budget and the real living wage, which we will be hoping to finalise dates for very shortly. The council briefing forward work programme is also included as I toggle down. I do apologise. And you'll see that on the 8th of November, there are currently 2 items scheduled for the cabinet council briefing, which is engagement of children and young people in politics and county lines issues.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Gary. Are there any comments or anything? No. Okay, so we can finalise the meeting by saying, or ending the meeting by saying thank you very much for attending. It's good to see you all, and despite our difficulties, we managed very well. So thank you very much, and it's 10 to 12 or thereabouts. So take care, everybody. See you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.